Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, depending on where you currently are. It has been quite a while since my last Ask Me Anything, and there's a very good reason for it. One of the biggest and, in my opinion, most important launches of the PeoplesSCE are happening this week. And this definitely justifies having another Ask Me Anything. As you all know, and that is because I have said it about a million times in the last half a year, eCredits is not the effort of one person or even one company. And much rather than that, it is a community effort. I've also said that eCredits is your project. And in some past videos, I have also teased the PeoplesSCE already. And now it is finally coming out this week. And essentially, you already know the date. It's going to be on Wednesday afternoon. And I cannot even say how excited I am to get this out. From Wednesday on, you will be able to become a member of the company that is building projects on the eCredits blockchain. And I've been talking about it for a bit, and there will be even more information on the website itself when it comes up, once it comes out. But I am sure, or I know for a fact by now, that there are quite a lot of questions out there. And that is the reason for today's Ask Me Anything. Just as a reminder, our Ask Me Anythings are about one topic, and today's topic is the SCE memberships and the SCE itself. And so that is what we are going to talk about in this Ask Me Anything. Unfortunately, when we posted the announcements, we got a lot of unrelated questions. And unfortunately, I will not be able to answer most of them. I will take some time at the end of the AMA, if there's some left, and answer some of the unrelated questions. But the main focus, just so you know why we picked these questions specifically, is the SCE memberships and the SCE itself. For those of you who are joining for the first time, and Ask Me Anything is essentially our casual living room atmosphere way to talk about current developments, upcoming things, and so on and so forth. And it is a non-moderated and largely unprepared thing, although we do take some questions up front, as you know. This means that I do not really have a script over here or on paper or on the laptop, and essentially just talk about the questions as I get them. So bear with me for the more complicated questions and answers. And lastly, before we get started, you can post questions regarding the SCE and its members right now. We will look at them. In the next room, essentially, there is Nikita sitting and browsing through them and essentially sending them to me so that I can answer them after I have answered the questions that you kindly sent to us up front. So get this started. Also, if you have any comments in between, feel free to post them to the chat. Nikita will read them. I will read them once I'm done with the first set of questions. So as I said, it's supposed to be a kind of conversational atmosphere. You ask questions, I answer them. If there's anything you would like to know, if there's anything you would like to say, feel free to do so. As long as it's about the SCE memberships and the SCE, I'm very happy to talk about that. So everything's been said and done. So let's get into it with the first question. And as usual, I'm getting some names thrown at me that I have a very hard time pronouncing. So I'm really sorry. I do apologize if I do not get them right. I probably messed up the pronunciation of half of them. I'm doing my best over here. So the first question is coming from Yiri, I guess, or Cherry. Hello, I have questions. Where is it possible to view the cooperative statutes and articles of association? And that, I have to say, is an amazing question to start. So a quick explanation for everybody else. The statutes of the SCE and the Articles of Association, or AOA as we refer to them, are the documents that legally define the boundaries of the SCE. So they state what you can do, what we have to do, what we can do, and so on and so forth. So it's really about the rule set of the SCE and how it works. It defines the boundaries of the SCE, its management, and its members. So they are very important documents to look into when we're talking about these memberships. And I do urge all of you, if you're looking into the memberships, to also read the AOA and the statutes, because as Yuri rightly commented, they are super important. So where can you find them? Essentially, in the next days or on Wednesday, besides the memberships going live, also the website of the SCE will go live. And on this website, you will be able to find the statutes and the AOA. Also, we will come to that in the next question, which is also from Yuri. you have other ways to look into more details of the SCE itself. So let's get to the next question. At which internet address is it possible to see the commercial register? So the PeoplesSCE is a company that is registered and operating in Luxembourg. So as you can see in my background, maybe I am not in Luxembourg right now, but usually I am in Luxembourg. And this is also where the PeoplesSCE is situated. And thus you can also find it in the local business register, which you can find under www.lbr.lu. And there you can look for the PeoplesSCE and look into all the details. You will find essentially the management board, the supervisory board, the foundation dates, the address, and so on. So all the data you would need to essentially interact with a legal entity. I would also like to use this question to state that the members register will not be publicly visible. So you will not be able to see who else is a member and others will not be able to find you. This is mainly for privacy reasons, of course. We do not want your private address or your full name to be visible on any public registers on the internet after you become a member for the SCE. So for privacy reasons, it will not be publicly visible who is a member and who isn't. And the next question also from Yuri, so that's the third and last one that you sent us. Thank you for that. All very good questions, by the way, so far. Who is in the management of the cooperative? So in the register, we have a couple of management members posted publicly currently. Essentially, it's 3 persons that are posted publicly. That is Jonathan, who has great knowledge of financial markets and is also an expert when it comes to the local Luxembourgish topics. Then there is Alexander, who has a great history in banking and finance and thus also does have extensive finance knowledge. And yeah, then lastly, there is myself, of course, in the management board. However, that is what you can see in the register. But of course, it takes more people to manage a company and a project like the PeoplesSCE and all the things that we are building for eCredits. And I'm just going to name a few, just so you have heard the names for once. There would be, for example, Olga, our COO, Andrew, our head of marketing, Lulzim, our head of key accounting, Alar, our head of customer service, and many, many more. So there's a lot of people working on this project behind the scenes. I know right now you're only seeing my face all the time. Soon we will change this. I would like more people to be introduced to you, to be in touch with you, and so on and so forth, because we do have a lot of expertise and a lot of people that really know what they're doing in this project. And I want you to meet all of them. Then next we have Aaron, and Aaron, always great to see questions of yours. Aaron has been a part of eCredits pretty much since the beginning. He has been asking questions in every single AMA, and also he has done a lot of great contributions. So thanks for doing all of that, Aaron. Really appreciate it. It's great to have people like you in the community of eCredits. So Aaron's first question is, isn't there a risk that bad decisions would be made if everyone can vote? And bluntly answered, yes, there is. So look at the elections in your hometown or your home state. Have you always been happy with that? I know that I have not. And this is just the way that democracy goes, right? Not everything goes the way I would like it to go or you would like it to go. However, there is one major difference, and that is education. So as you see and as you know, one of the first things that we put online when we put online the eCredits product is the eCredits Academy, where essentially people can read all about eCredits, of course, but not just, even beyond eCredits, cryptocurrencies, blockchains, and so on and so forth. So education is really an important point. We do release educational content on a regular basis. We make blockchain, eCredits, finances, and much more accessible and understandable for everyone. At least that is what we're trying to do. I'm sure there is a lot more that we can do, and we will do a lot more, but this is really one of our focus points, education. And we do not use, like often we see that in politics, populism. We do not create enemies just so we can get your votes. We do not use bread and circuses to make you happy. Instead, we do work on creating the best possible product and ecosystem for you. And I will admit, I will be the first to admit that we are not perfect at that. We have seen that over the past months where we did have quite some bugs out there that hopefully are all fixed by now, or they are all fixed by now to the extent that I know. But by having a vision and following it as transparently as we can, we aim to give you all the materials that allow you to make an educated choice. And so to get back to the question, yes, there is a risk that people might vote for bad decisions. And as long as I am the CEO, I will give you all the information that I can so you can make the right choice, whether it follows my opinion or not. So just because I have a specific opinion doesn't mean you have to vote for it. You can always overrule my opinion on that. And that's the beautiful thing about this, right? So we are essentially giving this project to you, the community, and we are very confident that you will make the right choices for it. The next question from Aaron is, what is the DGO? So DGO stands for Decentrally Governed Organization. And what that means is that we combine the best things of centralized and decentralized organizations. We can be regulated, we do pay taxes, but we can be 100% controlled by our members, which makes us very decentralized. You make the decisions, you set the path, and yet we do not evade regulations, but rather embrace them in a way. The next question of Aaron is, actually the next two questions of Aaron are, what are the advantages of the DGO and what is the difference between a DAO and so a DAO and a DGO? I think these two can be answered as one. A DAO, which stands for a decentralized autonomous organization, is not a company, but as the name says, an organization that is in the hands of many people and that is decentralized. It basically exists on the blockchain only and nowhere else. So it's not really a registered company. It doesn't pay taxes. It cannot be regulated. And it, in the end, cannot really have a contract with any other party because it's not a legal or a natural person, right? So you can't really get more decentralized, or can you? So DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, have some problems, and they start essentially where they cannot be regulated. Thus, them doing business that should be regulated is always a bit problematic. They do not pay taxes, as I've mentioned, which you can decide if that's good or bad. In my opinion, taxes are supposed to essentially support a society, and that is good to begin with. And more often than not, there is one or a few so-called whales controlling it. So that's people that put in a lot of money or have a lot of influence over these DAOs. And this is something that we aim to solve with the DGO because they are essentially non-existent by the way we set it up. It is a proper company. It can have actual contracts with other parties. It can be regulated. It even can have licenses and so on. And additionally, we do have the one member, one vote philosophy, which means that there is not someone that has more money and thus can decide what the company does. Because in front of the SCE, everybody is the same. Whether you're a millionaire or you are living paycheck to paycheck or anywhere in between, your vote counts the same. And thus I would argue that the DGO set up like the PeoplesSCE is even more decentralized than a DAO. So I hope that answers these questions. But just about this question alone, I could probably talk for an hour, and unfortunately, we do not have that much time. The next question is coming from Goran, and Goran, thank you. You have also been posting a lot of questions in the past. Really appreciate to see you back here. Who is eligible to be a member? Super easy to answer. As long as you're of legal age, which could be 18 years or 21, and I think there are some other jurisdictions that have different ages, but as long as you're of legal age, and not on a sanctions list or from a sanctioned country, you are eligible to become a member. The next question also coming from Goran. What is the membership fee? Also super easy to answer. It's 50 euros handling fee plus VAT and 10 euros for the share itself. So it's a 60 euro one-time fee. I really want to make it clear, it's not a subscription, it's 60 euros one time. And this question I would also like to use to tell you a bit about that fee. I would like to make very clear that we are not making money off that fee. For that 60 euros, we have to check your details and enter you to a shareholder register, do a notarized confirmation, and some more bureaucratic stuff. And you then have that one share for the rest of your life, unless you do not want it anymore, at which point you can come to us and tell us, I don't want to share anymore. I would like to cancel that membership essentially, and you even get the 10 euros for the share back. So I hope this clearly shows where the values are for this program. We do not want your money. We want you to be a part of this. We want you to build this with us together. This is what we're going for. And the next question, also from Goran, is there a maximum number of memberships? In total, there is no maximum. So there can be as many members as there are people in the world. Memberships are not limited. They will not go offline, and they will only get extended to get better and better. Per person, however, there is a limit, yes. So you can only have one membership per person, that's it. So you cannot buy a second or a third or a fourth or whatever. You can only have one membership per person. So given that we are already almost 20 minutes in, I would like to get to the questions that have been asked in the chat so far. However, there's one more question that I've just seen that is on the list that is not really referring to the SCE or the SCE memberships. So it's a bit off topic. I would still like to get it in there because I think it has not been asked in the past. And thus I would like to answer it as well. And the question is coming from Patrick. And Patrick is asking, why are 98% of the ECS on one account? And that is a super good question. And I would really like to answer that because transparency is super important. So great for asking that question, Patrick. Why are there 98% of eCredits on one account? Essentially, eCredits, unlike other cryptocurrencies, is not getting created on a daily basis. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, whenever you send a transaction, a block is mined or essentially confirmed. And by that, a specific amount of the cryptocurrency is created. You might have heard in the past that there's a maximum of 21 million Bitcoin, but they are not all mined yet, and so on and so forth, right? So at eCredits, it's a bit different. All eCredits are there already. There are not coming any new eCredits in existence. And they're all on one account because essentially we use a smart contract, a decentralized smart contract, to distribute that. I think you have heard about the activity program, where essentially people can in the future exchange activity to eCredits. And by doing so, new eCredits are being released into the public. They are added to the circulating supply, if you will. And this big account that you're referring to is essentially doing that. So it's not that me or anybody else is having 98% of all eCredits and we're now super rich and essentially spending all the money on yachts and private islands. That's definitely not the case. But it is for the activity exchange smart contract that will go live in the future. That said, I will now switch over to the list of questions that have been asked. And I will start going through these. So the first question that I would like to answer from the questions that have been asked so far is, what is the connection between the PeoplesSCE and eCredits? So the PeoplesSCE is essentially the company that is building the software you are using when you're interacting with eCredits. So the e-wallet, if you download that, is built by the PeoplesSCE. The web portal, if you're using that, is built by the PeoplesSCE. So we are software developers that create solutions that you can use on the eCredits ecosystem. eCredits as such is an ecosystem, a blockchain, and a cryptocurrency at the same time, if you will. And it doesn't belong to anybody. It doesn't really belong to the PeoplesSCE. It doesn't belong to anybody, essentially. Because it's completely decentralized. So all the nodes can vote on what happens. We can vote on updates. The nodes can vote on new rules, if you will. The nodes can vote on changes to the code of the blockchain. And that means it's completely decentralized. The PeoplesSCE does not own it. The PeoplesSCE cannot control it. But we do build software that allow the users, so you, the community, to interact with the eCredits ecosystem and blockchain. The next question, and by the way, whenever I'm not saying a name with a question I'm answering, that means people posted it as anonymous. So as you can see in the chat, you can post questions, or for the Q&A, you can post questions with your name or anonymous. If I'm not saying a name, it means it has been posted anonymously. The next question is, how can the PeoplesSCE affect the development of eCredits? Well, as I said, we are essentially creating the software that allows you to interact with eCredits. And from that perspective, we, of course, can influence in some way how you use eCredits. For example, if we develop a software that allows you to, hint for the future maybe, tokenize some assets and then use them on the eCredits blockchain, that means eCredits might be used for tokenization more. On the other hand, if we use it for developing games, decentralized games or metaverses, then that means that eCredits might be used for metaverses more. And that is just because we essentially developed that software and make it accessible. However, that doesn't mean that not anybody else can come along. So for example, there's, I don't know, the PeoplesSCE coming up at some point. And while we are doing tokenization, they are doing metaverse. And so eCredits might be used for metaverse, although the SCE doesn't really do that. I hope that that makes clear that essentially we are building on that ecosystem, but we do not own it. We do not control it. It's free for all. We just happen to be building on that ecosystem because the opportunities it offers are just amazing. Are there any other examples of a DGO running a tech product? To my knowledge, no, there isn't. I'm always very careful with saying we are the first or there is nobody else, but to my knowledge, there is no other DGO running a tech product even comparable to what we are doing. What are the main requirements for a membership? I think I've kind of answered that above. Essentially, as long as you're not in a sanctioned country or on a sanctions list and you are of legal age, you can become a member of the PeoplesSCE. And thus, and I think I haven't really talked about that yet, being a member and essentially joining us as a member means that you can vote on a lot of things. Started at, for example, we are thinking about developing some new features. And in the future, we are going to ask you, we're going to ask the members, which feature would you like to see? Would you rather like to see A, B, C, D? What do you think is the most valuable feature for you or for the community? And you can decide on that. But we're not done there. We're going to essentially ask the members about strategic decisions. For example, as some of you might know, at the end of the year or in Q4, supposedly a new regulation for cryptocurrencies will come out. And we will look into that. And maybe a question comes up, and the question might be, we do have an opportunity to go for that license. We might not need it, but we can go for it. And it will provide these benefits. We could build these products with that license, but we don't have to do it if we just keep the same product that we have currently. And you can then decide, should we do that? Should we go that route? Should we spend that money or should we rather not? And also as a member, you are essentially part of the General Assembly. And the General Assembly is a really big thing because they're essentially the future path and the past decisions of a company are talked about, decided about, and evaluated. So for example, you will see how much have we spent of the money that we have, how much money have we made, how much revenue have we made, what products have we built and shipped, and what are we going to do in next year? What are the forecasts for next year? So essentially, what you will be able to do is act as the owners of the PeoplesSCE, because that is what you are. You are then the owners of the SCE. The next question, also anonymously. Come on, guys, post some names. I would like to recognize you in the next AMA again. Where can we find more info about the PeoplesSCE? Do you have a website? Yes and no. We do not have a website online right now. I think I mentioned it before. We are going to have a website starting Wednesday. So the moment the memberships go live, we are going to have a website live, and you will be able to find a lot of information on that website. The next anonymously posted question is, are there any discounts for the first members joining the SCE? Yes, and I will not tell you which discounts there are, but I can tell you there are going to be some promotions. So as you are here in the AMA, I assume you are already following our social media channels. If not, now's the latest time to do so. So get your e-wallet ready, follow our social media channels, because yes, of course, there will be a promotion for the first members joining. The next question is, what can the members of the SCE vote on? I think I have just pretty extensively answered that question. And the next question is, you are always talking about building a new economy. What do you mean by that? So that is a question, actually, that is a question that will take so long to answer that I will postpone it. And if you have some time at the end, I will go into these. So the next question, someone with a name, thanks for that. David asked, what is the SCE memberships? So I think I've answered most of that already. I'll still go into a little bit more detail with that. And essentially the SCE memberships, imagine it like buying one share of a company. And then imagine that everybody else can also only buy one share. And what that leads to is that just like in voting for your government, for example, everybody pretty much has one vote. So you can vote and everybody else can vote for certain things that I have just described. And the SCE membership essentially allows you to do that. But we have more plans for the membership in the future, because right now we're talking about the voting, we are talking about more transparency, we are talking about you having insights into how we work, what we work on, and so on. In the future, however, and that is something we plan to do, we would like to make you participate in all the success that the SCE has. And that means we would also like to involve you in the financial success. And I cannot right now state a lot more about that because it's still something that we are working on and still something that we have to check legally and regulatory. But that is essentially the SCE memberships. You are the owner of the PeoplesSCE. So then there's a lot of similar questions that are not related to the SCE, but I will still answer that because it's been posted. I see it five times here on the screen alone. When will eCredits be listed on bigger exchanges? Soon, TM. So we are working on that. I've said in the past, and as you know by now, whenever I make announcements, whenever I tell you something is going to happen at a certain period in time, that is when I'm 100% sure that we can make it. So what I can tell you is we are working on it. We are talking to quite a couple of partners, so exchanges we would like to get listed on if the conditions are met. But on the other hand, I have to say we have very strict criteria. So we are very picky on what exchanges we would like to get listed on. And I have talked about that in the past, and I will say it again. Essentially, we are a product that in the future might be regulated. We are a product that is always very close to essentially the regulators, and we talk to them a lot, and we would like to make sure that we are 100% clean and that there are no problems with the way we set it up. And some exchanges have the same philosophy and some don't. And we talk to the former and not to the latter, because there are some exchanges, and I will just straight out say it now. We very often get the question, when will you list on Binance? And I answer that with a very clear answer. We will aim for getting listed on Binance when Binance aims for full compliance with current regulations. Currently, that is not the case. And I'm not hating on Binance or anything here. Binance is doing a great job for the ecosystem, but for a product that is aiming to work in a market that will be regulated and will get more and more regulated in the future, I would like to have an exchange that is also regulated and working closely with the regulators, just because I would like to build a sustainable product that is future-proof. So exchange listing happening soon. That's all I can say for now. What I can guarantee you is once it happens, we will announce it. Don't worry, you will not miss that. The next question, I think I have answered that already, is how many people can join as members? Is there a limit? Well, there is no limit. There can be, I don't know how many people we have in the world right now, but billions of members in the PeoplesSCE, and everybody has one single vote. But stressing this once again, every person can only have one membership, so you will not be able to have 2, 5, or 1,000 votes. You will always only have one single vote. The next question is from Valdas. Who could be the members of the SCE and what could they do as members? So also something I think I have answered before, everybody can be a member as long as you're of legal age, not from a sanctioned country or on a sanctions list. And what they could do is they can vote, they can contribute, they have a lot of transparency. And something that I have not mentioned yet is they can also become delegates or essentially members of boards. So we might have a lot of people from a specific industry and they are experts in this industry. And so we might ask them to assemble a board so they can advise us on how we can best work with that industry. Say, for example, you're in the F&B industry, so in the food and beverage industry, and you have a lot of expertise there. And I don't have a lot of expertise. I don't, in fact, have any expertise in the food and beverage industry, but it might be a very interesting industry to work with for the PeoplesSCE and eCredits, right? So we might ask the expert members that we have from that industry to assemble a board and work with us, advise us on how we can best approach that industry. So essentially what you will be is the closest you can be to that company and essentially be like owners, advisors, and essentially a board supervising what we do at the same time. Then let's go on for the next couple of questions. Oh, that's a good one. Eliza, great question. How do you make sure that there are no fake accounts to protect the one vote per member politic, KYC and security checks, etc.? So upfront, let me say, I know that you guys don't like KYC checks. I know you don't like them. Nobody really likes them, but they're a necessity. I think I've talked about this in the past and why they are necessary, not just from a legal point of view, but generally from an economic point of view. And because, let's be honest, none of us would like to financially support terrorists, right? And that is essentially what KYC is all about. And so what we have tried to do is kind of find the middle way. So we will request some data from you. We will request you to upload a passport so that we can check if the data you have given us is correct. We do not want to go all the way of a fully fledged KYC process where we need a source of funds and a proof of residence and so on and so forth. We just want to make sure that you are yourself, essentially. You are who you claim to be. And that, Eliza, will also be the tool we use to make sure that people cannot sign up 2 or 3 or 5 times, because we will check, is this member already in our database with the passport? And if so, they will be rejected and will not be able to become a member. Because of course, that is something we really want to avoid. If somebody is just sitting there and there's nothing better to do than creating, I don't know, 1 million accounts just so they can have the biggest voting power in the SCE, that is not what we want. As you rightly said, there's one vote, one member, one vote, and we will stick to that and we will make sure it happens. But excellent questions, very good. So next question is coming from Nuno. Only people who buy eCredits notes can be part. Oh, sorry. Can only people who buy eCredits notes can be part of the members of the SCE? No, you do not need a note to become a member of the SCE. We do appreciate you buying a node, because essentially a node helps us operate the blockchain. The more nodes we have, the more decentralized and secure the blockchain is. So you don't have to buy it. You can even set it up at home yourself without having to buy anything. It's just easier when you buy it directly. But let me be very clear. No, you do not need to have a node to become a member of the SCE. Thomas is asking, when can we all make the membership? Wednesday. So the official launch date is, wow, I hope I get this right now. It's Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central European time. So in Central Europe, it's 2 p.m. and on Wednesday. So on the 28th of September when we go live. And then you can immediately get onto that, become a member, and essentially get the insights into the SCE. And we will definitely try to make the first vote happen in the scope of this year. So Wednesday, you can start. Wednesday, you can go. So one of my favorite names. I think I've messed his name up in the past AMAs that we've had every single time. We've also written on, I think it was WhatsApp or Telegram directly. So Rogerio, great to see you again here. And you're asking, when will we see eCredits on the mainstream? Thanks and maintain the good work. Thank you very much. As I said, very happy to see you again here. You've also been a long time follower. I know that. When will you see eCredits on the mainstream? I will not be able to spoil too much of that, but I've mentioned a couple of names of the head of the different departments. What I can tell you is they're working super hard. And what they're doing right now is they're making the preparations for a couple of very big campaigns that we are going to start. And in the past couple of months, we've had one focus country so far, that is Italy. So we've had a lot of focus on the Italian merchants and so on. And the reason we've just had one so far is, as I've said, we did have some bugs, some things were going on that we wanted to fix or that we wanted to improve. And now that is done, and now we're essentially ready to go to the next focus countries. And with the next focus countries, there will also be quite some very large marketing campaigns, especially, but not exclusively, in these countries. There will be new product launches very soon. There will be essentially PR campaigns that we're starting. So I assume that is what you ask for when you say mainstream, but yeah, happening very soon. And just to make that clear, of course, we are not done with Italy. Italy was the first country we started in, and we really appreciate all the feedback that you have given us, all the merchants and users that signed up. It's just amazing what we have done in Italy and other countries as well, of course. We really appreciate that. You are the early adopters of eCredits. I love seeing that. I love seeing the movement that we have started. I see some of you posting screenshots of the map every couple of days saying, hey, we have more merchants here, we have more merchants there. So that is great to see, and that is our path to the mainstream, and we're going there. And we're going there very quickly, I can tell you that much. Dimitar is asking, what are the steps to become a member of the PeoplesSCE? So essentially what I recommend is, once we go live, we will have all the announcements, we will send it out via newsletter. Just follow the steps on the SCE, they're super easy. Essentially the way it works is you will sign up as a member or apply to be a member essentially on the website. There will be a portal for that you will be able to access easily. And then the application is getting sent to us. And what I can tell you is my team and I will be sitting there. I will personally be looking through as many memberships as I can, so you don't have to wait for a long time. I try to make it happen as soon as we can. Then you will get essentially the approval. You get an email saying, hey, you are now approved as a member. And then you will go to the portal. And then, as I mentioned, there will be the membership fee of 60 euros. You will be able to pay that on the portal, and then you will be a member. It should be a super easy process, including the approval. I hope I can make it happen within a couple of hours for each and every one of you, and then you will be a member. And these are the steps, but they will be very clearly outlined on the website. So I can tell you there will be like a 1, 2, 3 step process that will guide you through that. Next question, is there any time frame where we need to decide on the membership, or is it open indefinitely? And that is coming from, once again, a name, I apologize, I will probably mess it up. Borche, I'm sorry. I hope you know who you are. Is there any time frame where we need to decide on the membership, or is it open indefinitely? Generally, there is no intent to stop memberships anytime. So if you don't want to decide now, you can still become a member of the SCE in a month, a year down the line. However, you will miss out on the decisions that we will have you do or allow you to do until then. So essentially, if we have a voting now, but you're not a member, you will not be able to participate in the voting. But I do not want to cause any FOMO. So of course, I would be happy if a lot of you became members right now, because then you are part of the company and you're part of the team essentially building eCredits with the PeoplesSCE. But there's no FOMO about that. Memberships will be open. The next question is voting free? Coming from Niels. So yes, voting is free. There is one caveat, however. I just want to be very transparent. We will introduce votings on the blockchain in the future. And that means that essentially when you want to vote on the blockchain, you need to do a blockchain transactions. As I'm sure many of you know, if you do a blockchain transactions, there are gas costs, gas fees. On eCredits, these are super low. We're talking, I guess, about 1 cent or 2 cents or something like that. So a very tiny amount. But if we do a blockchain voting, these gas fees will have to be paid. Just being very transparent here. But it's not like we're making money off the votes or anything. The votings per se will be free, but if they're on the blockchain, there will be gas fees to be paid. And yeah, I'm looking at this right now, and we're getting so many questions in there. So we have almost 100 questions that I have not answered. This is, I think, more than we have ever had in the past, which is super amazing. I really appreciate you all contributing to this AMA as much as you do. And this is really great to see, but unfortunately, we set the AMA to be half an hour. We're now 45 minutes in. We're not even through a minuscule part of these questions because you have so many of them. This is great to see. So one suggestion. I know I pushed one of these questions to the back. I will talk about that question. And then we will wrap up the AMA. But what I would like to invite you all is send these questions to us. We will answer them. And also we will release an FAQ with, so I frequently asked questions made up of all the questions that you have all asked. So we will look through all the questions you had and we will try to answer as many of them as we can in an FAQ that we will release. Because it's important for me that you understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and so on. So yeah, I will try to get something out there to answer all of these questions that you have. So let me just jump back to the other question that I pushed to the back before. What do I mean by building a new economy? And essentially, I think I've talked about this in a couple of the videos that I have released. The new economy here is essentially an economy that is focusing more on the people. So right now we're seeing a lot of pain that the people in the current economic system have. And I don't even know where to get started. So as you know, we have a team in Estonia as well. In Estonia, the inflation right now is hovering at around 20%. On average in the EU, we're at, I think it's 8 to 9% right now. This is a lot. So this means that essentially when you are holding euros on your bank account and you can buy something worth 1,000 euros right now, that means that by the end of the year, you can buy 8 to 9% less on average in the EU. In Estonia, you can buy, what is it like then, a bit more than 80% of what you could buy at the beginning of the year if inflation continues like this. And this is crazy because I know a lot of you out there. I know a lot of people in this community. I know how hard you all are working, and I see it at my friends, at my family. People are losing money to an extent that we have seen the last time 100 years ago, just by holding euros. And this is just painful to see. But we're not done there. So as you know, the company, the PeoplesSCE, is based in Luxembourg, and Luxembourg is very critical when it comes to that topic. But it's by far not the only country where people cannot afford housing anymore. So we're looking at the average income of a country, and we're looking at the guidelines that you essentially have to fulfill, or the criteria you have to fulfill to even qualify for a loan to buy an apartment or even a house. And these two just don't match up. It's impossible for a lot of people in our generations or the generations following us to buy housing. And that is just crazy, right? And what we are aiming to do is building an economy that does not center around people that think they know how economy works and do some essentially politics that essentially work into their own pockets. We aim for building an economy that puts not shareholders, but the people living in it, the people using it, into the center. And that is why we are called the PeoplesSCE. That is why eCredits has the slogan, the people's currency. That is why we open up the SCE for new members to join. That is why we essentially do everything to make things that are inaccessible to people, that are unaffordable, like, for example, housing or investments in real estate, now accessible and affordable to them. That is the vision behind this whole project, behind eCredits, behind the PeoplesSCE. That is why I get up in the morning. That is why the team gets up in the morning. That's the first thing I think about when I wake up. That's the last thing I think about when I go to sleep. I want to build an economy that puts the people into the center and not some shareholders, not some politics. And that is what we're building. And that is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about building a new economy. And that is what we're aiming for, what the vision is. And that is what this AMA was. And this is the end of my rage now. So I hope this kind of gives you an insight onto why we're doing this, because we're not doing this for someone. It's not really about how we're doing this. It's not really about when we're doing this. it's, as I said, not for whom. The real question behind this is, why are we doing this? And the answer to this is, we're doing this for the people. We want you to essentially take back control of this economy. And this is the new economy we are envisioning. So with that last question, I hope it's clear now why I kept it for last, because I just can't contain myself when talking about this topic. But essentially, this wraps up our AMA. We're now 20 minutes over the time we essentially scheduled it to be. As I said, I will try to get out an FAQ document with all the questions. We will save them out now so we can answer them. And in the next couple of days, you will get essentially an email in the newsletter, and we will also post it on our social media channels so you can follow up on these questions once again. And yeah, from the numbers that I'm seeing, this has been the most successful and the highest attendance that we ever had in an Ask Me Anything. And to me, this just shows how important this topic is, not just to us here at the PeoplesSCE, but also to you out there. So once again, I really appreciate all of the people that I've seen here for the third time in the third AMA now. I appreciate all the super good questions that you have asked. I'm really sorry. I would like to do this for another hour and answer all the rest of the questions. Unfortunately, I cannot. But yeah, thank you for attending. It was an absolute pleasure having you here. And I hope I will see you in the next Ask Me Anything. Have a good evening. It was great to have you. Bye.